Good evening, everyone. It's now 5:30 p.m. Monday, September 28th, 2020. I'm calling this meeting of the City Council of Paris to order. Before we do anything else, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Debbie Anderson, who recently passed away. She's the wife of our longtime finance director, Mr. Gene Anderson. For everyone, a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Next will be invocation by Mr. Path, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Portugal. So everyone stand, please.
Let's pray. Our Father, God in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Our Father, we thank you so much for this time tonight. Father, we thank you that we can come together to discuss issues as a community and to work to move this community forward. Father, our hearts and minds are with the Anderson family. Father, we ask you please be with Gene and his family as they mourn the loss of Debbie. Gene is very special to us. We thank you so much for the work he has done for our community, behind the scenes, doing so much for all of us. And we know that behind him was his wife supporting him. We thank you for them, and we ask you please strengthen him. We ask you please guide the council, help them tonight, help them to have wisdom as they examine each topic and each item. We ask you please help all of us, Father, to work together to move this community forward. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. Citizens Forum is now open. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step up, give us your name, your address, and I'll give you 2 minutes. I usually warn you after 2 minutes that you need to wrap it up. So,
hello, everyone. My name is Tom Wilson, address 5060 FM 196, Paris, Texas. I'm here tonight. I'm presenting this resolution for you guys to review. It's what we feel is an important resolution. It's brought by, I'm representing a group of multi-race, multi-faith. This resolution, if you guys decide to pass it or even look at it, can help Paris heal the racial tensions that we have, I believe. And we, as a group, believe this also. This resolution also, if passed, will go to Washington. It will be represented by a couple of representatives that are with us, and it will be put through the House of Representatives. With this, I'll proceed. This resolution is called Paris ABLM Resolution. It's all Black Lives Matter. Let me put my glasses on real quick. Black Lives Matter was founded in the United States today and is today a global movement that aims to deliver racial justice to black people who are subject to continuing violence and injustice. BLM's reach is global. BLM finds a wide support base known today as known as Black Lives Matter Global Network. BLM and its contents of mission statements states that its vision is to work with a world where black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. BLM partners with top human rights organizations. They are well-funded, has a legal and communication teams to accomplish its goals. While movements for social justice serve humanity, the purpose of this document is to broaden the goals of powerful movements such as BLM so that they may leverage their power to improve and protect Black Lives Matter, Black lives globally, preventing the death or injustice through violence, injustice, and prejudice. One of the founders of BLM, Opal Tomei, is Nigerian American writer. So she has ties to Nigeria. Since 2011, more than 39,000 people have been slaughtered in Nigeria alone, according to the Council of Foreign Relations. Groups that have wreaked unchecked and sustained violence on black Christian communities are the Boko Haram. They perform kidnappings and other acts of terrorism, including suicide bombings, often using women, and they are preferentially attacking churches and black Christian communities. Their casualties are 90% civilians and 10% security. There are other groups also. The Funali gangs, which is Traven Pastoralists, which their atrocities are more towards Christians. Al-Shabaab, they are more towards Christians, but they also commit all other atrocities too. They were involved with the Nairobi Mall attack, which 67 were left dead. Now into modern slavery in Africa. Despite enormous progress in human rights worldwide, institutional slavery is still alive in a lot of African nations. Maturina, Sudan, Nigeria, Algeria, and Libya still have pockets of slavery that are very old and historical roots. According to the United Nations International Labor Organization, there are more than 3 times as many people forced into servitude today compared to the number of slaves captured and sold during the 350-year transatlantic slave trade, whose legacy is still a stigma. Criminal networks earn $150 billion a year off of this, more than, not as much as their smuggling and arms trafficking, but it's third. Libya, where aid organizations and journalists have documented slave auctions, is a big part of this. For humans to progress, the weakest must be uplifted first. Violence, persecution, discrimination, slavery of black people must be stopped. Violent extermination and intimidation of poor black Christian communities in countries such as Nigeria must be immediately halted. Perpetrators must be punished without consideration of race, political, or religious ideologies. I've included pictures, a copy of the resolution for you guys. This is a chance for Paris to do something, and something that can go to Congress. It's not for fame or fortune for us, but it's for healing for everyone.
Mr. Wilson, I've let you go quite a bit over
Okay,
time.
I
but,
understand.
I wanted to give you the opportunity
Okay.
to talk. And so
Thank you very much.
If you want to wrap it up, I'll give you a few more seconds.
Okay, well, I just hope that you guys see it in your heart to let's start healing and let these Christians live. With that, I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Anyone else wishing to address the council, please step up. Yeah. No one else wishes to address the council? Okay, then go ahead, yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Williams, live at 1205.
Yeah, put the microphone down so we
Okay.
can hear you a little better.
Thank you.
All right, let me set this. My name is Carolyn Williams, I live at 1205 West Center Street. And I want to talk a little bit about the high grass and the vacant lots and stuff. And I also did want to talk about Black Lives Matter also, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the high grass. I got with Grayson, and he was working on some, but I just can't understand how come all this time there hasn't been a solution to the problem, because the problem has gotten so bad. The grass is high. You can't see the stop signs or anything. And when I call and make a report that says that we're working on it, we're getting it done, we're doing our best. But when it seems like it's fall back on me, it's a fine. And I obey because I don't want to pay no $2,000 for no high grass or sending me a certified letter and all that. So I obey the law. And then some people just say, well, that it doesn't matter, they do just what they want to do. And as far as about Black Lives Matter, we had been protesting about the statue on the Confederate. And I'm not so much, I'm not gonna say not concerned, but in due time, all that's gonna change. You know, it takes time, but we are just protesting and we get some, you know, very, very angry people, and they are flying around with their flags and whatever, and I can look over that too. But the thing about it is that it's going to change, and it's going to be a change in Black Lives Matter, and we don't have to go as far back as saying this happened in Nigeria. We have issues that happen right here in Paris that has shocked and has devastated me in so many ways that when you see stuff like this happening on TV, it's different when you see it here in person. But we're wanting that change, and we're still trying to move forward for that change. And if you don't do nothing, then nothing won't get done. You don't say nothing, then nothing still won't get done. You ask, and you shall receive. You might not get it right then and there, but it's coming.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the council?
Yes, sir. Cecil Hutchings. I live on 6 Southeast Street. And about 2.5 years ago, they had some people come in and redo our streets. They's putting in sewer lines, water lines. Well, I guess it was one of them third-rate contractors that done it, because ever since they left, the pavement's caving in. All up and down the street, it's terrible. I mean, it'll knock
Which
your
street
front
is it
end
again, sir?
out.
I didn't hear. Which street is it?
6th Southeast.
6 Southeast. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
I mean, the street is ruined. Some of the driveways got concreted, some of them didn't. They scraped all the gravel out of our driveway and our driveway next to our lot. Well, I've been trying for 1.5 years to get somebody to bring some gravel out, and I haven't done it yet. Also, there's a bridge that I had built so the mailman could cross over. It took me 8 months to get that rebuilt because their big trucks run over it and broke it all to pieces. But something seriously needs to be done about these streets. I mean, we pay taxes. And I mean, you know, to get some fly-by-night people to come in and do your streets and leave it like that, that's uncalled for. I mean, you know, they can fix all the streets that's in front of these historical houses and stuff, and they're perfect. All the rest of them, they don't care. I just want something to get done about it. I've called and I've asked and I've begged everybody up in the, you know, the court systems and stuff to come out and at least put something in them holes. Well, about 2 weeks ago, they come out. About a wheelbarrow full of asphalt was thrown, wasn't even packed. Now it's in the same shape it was. So if you would please try to get something done about these streets.
Okay, sir, I'll invite you to stay for the rest of the meeting. We do have discussions that are on the agenda that are pretty close to your topic you're mentioning, so be sure and stick around,
Okay.
and we might address some of your issues. Does anyone else wish to address the council, please? Okay, seeing none, you want to speak? Go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead and speak. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name's Charles Dixon, and I live on 919 Fitzhugh. And I don't know, I guess it's maybe a custom in Paris, Texas for maybe many years, but our street, truck drivers come down our street with loads of, whatever material. And our streets look like I don't know what when they keep eating cows. Folk come down our street pulling cows in the trailers and everything, horses. I don't understand that, And I thought it was a residential area. I think it is, supposedly. But anyhow, even down there by the projects, I can't understand how come the project, they got a man over there got cows, horses, right next to the project there. Booker T, I think that's called. And I said, I've never seen nothing like that. Inside of a town now, I can see it on the outside or either in a rural area, I can see it that way, But I can't understand that, and it don't make sense to me. And I don't know how come those folks down there in the projects won't complain about that. I know that them cows and horses stink, you can smell it sometime going by. But anyhow, I just wondered about that, and I wonder can we get our streets maybe to be fixed and fix you. It never seemed like it will ever get fixed. Like the young man said just a few minutes ago, they come out there and put some, in little holes, they put asphalt, loose asphalt. They got a stamper or whatever thing is, they jack the hammer or whatever, they try to, to press it in. And before you know it, water gets back on it and here it comes out. And so I just wondered about that, and I'm wondering if anything can be done about that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Come on up.
I appreciate your time in this because this is something
Give us your
that-
name and address, please.
My name is Shirley Hayes, 1618 Pine Bluff, Parish, Texas.
Thank you.
Okay. We would like to know that if this building, these apartments or whatever, are going to go through, and there's going to be an entranceway on 17th Street and one on Pine Bluff, how are we going to get out of our driveway? I mean, it's crazy right now.
There will be a public comment section on that zoning change. You'll be invited to speak at that as well. You're welcome to continue speaking.
Okay,
now, though.
sure. Okay, even when my doctor says, I use Pine Bluff all the time. I don't have the lights or the stops or any of the problems that I do when I go down Clarksville or Lamar. And everybody in town is going up and down Pine Bluff, and we can't even pull in our driveway without somebody coming behind us and honking the horn, cussing at us and telling us to move. The last time that happened to me, I put my car in park and I walked back to that young man and I told him, don't disrespect me like this. This is my house and I'm paying taxes. Somebody, one of these days, is going to lose their patience because it's just day and night. As they were talking about the 18-wheelers, they zoom up and down the road, and they're not going 30 miles an hour. We've got the motorcycles, we've got the crotch rockets, we've got cars passing each other in the middle of the road. And I mean, if I'm going across the street to see my disabled neighbors, check on them, well, if I get halfway across the street, somebody at 17th Street decides to run the stop sign, and then they kind of chase you, make you run across the street, and then they're laughing because they made you run. Now, I'm paying taxes, and I can't walk across the street. And then we have to deal with the laundromat. And a remark was made last time by a contractor who slid one phone to the other one on the floor because one could not talk anymore, that it's pretty much citywide. It's the city's problem that there's drugs at the laundromat, there's screaming, there's fighting, there's, you name it, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on there. And, oh yeah, it's the police problem. Well, they're already stretched out as far as they can go. And by the time you call a police officer to come help you, they probably know, well, we got to get out of here, because that happens all the time. Across the street from us, a guy who was renting a house was on a motorcycle gang, and the gang got mad at him, and they all pulled guns out, okay? Now, I worked in Washington, D.C. for the Corps of Engineers. I worked downtown on Independence Avenue. We didn't have this problem. okay? I know the difference between what goes on in a small town that, which is what we thought we moved to. We're from the city. We thought we could have a good neighborhood, a safe place for our grandchildren. Well, guess what? That's been taken away. And you let more people move in the neighborhood that are going to disrespect and throw out trash. I mean, as it is now, almost daily, I'm picking up trash that's thrown out from in
I've let
front
you
of
go.
our house all the way to the corner.
I've let you go way over the 2 minutes as I have everybody else, but if you want to wrap it up, we will still have a public hearing on that item, I think about Pine Bluff and 17.
Okay.
So if you'd like to wrap it up, you'll be invited to speak again later on in the meeting.
Okay, so,
Okay, all right.
okay, well, I'll just speak later on
Okay,
in the
all right.
meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council?
My name's William Smith, and I too live on Pine Bluff, 1619 Pine Bluff, and that is right next door to this project. I don't know much about the project, if they're gonna go up, if they got a blueprint, and I know it's not my property, but it's gonna affect my livelihood. So I'm curious in why this takes place, which I'm against too. If I'm gonna be knowing if I got a porch out front, if I'm gonna see a building, if it's big, tall, windows facing in, and
This will be addressed at that particular agenda item, which is in fact coming up pretty early in it, and we will have a public hearing. It would probably be more appropriate to give us your comments
Okay,
then, and I
that'd be-
will invite,
that'd be
the floor will
great.
be opened up and people will be able to speak again.
Okay,
If
but
there's anything specific, you can say it, but I hate to do things twice.
yeah, okay. Well, I don't know if this is twice or not, or if anybody listened, but where I live is my retirement home. I've retired, and it's a family dwelling that has been passed on. I'm fixing it up slowly because I got health issues, but I too worry about the traffic. I can't cross the street. I gotta wait and wait. Pull out of my driveway, wait. They're just going too fast. I think if you guys turned it to 25, they go 35 might give me a chance. Other than that, I'm worrying every day about this because I don't know if I'm facing a high rise or a low rise. Crime, I've personally experienced the guns that I have going on next door, the drug dealing that's going on next door. And it's not the only house in the neighborhood, I realize that. But I've never addressed these things this way before.
Your 2 minutes are up, but there will be more time to discuss this and later on in the meeting when this particular item comes up. So, thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none, we will close the public citizens forum. Brings us to the consent agenda. Is there anything in the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have pulled for additional discussion or evaluation? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I move we pass the consent agenda as is.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Everyone in favor? Raise your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Which brings us to our first item. On the regular agenda, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Renee Harvey and Russell Lowe for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district number 2, SF2, to a commercial district C in the city of Paris, block 331, lot 7, and PT of 8, LCAD 18889, located at 3787 Northwest Loop 286. Ms. Easton.
Renee Harvey is requesting the zoning change. This is the old Boy Scouts of America office building that has been vacant for a number of years, and I believe she has a potential buyer of the lot who is proposing an office or retail type use. I believe it's an office space The future land use plan does recommend that this property be used as commercial or office space. It's because it has loop frontage, and that's appropriate along loop frontage. Again, before anything can be used or opened up in this building, some zoning change is necessary. Staff is in support of this change, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with a 5-0 vote. So,
Okay, were there any dissension, any people expressed any opposition to this?
we did receive one letter from one of the residents on Grant.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and open the public hearing, get that out of the way. The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak for or against the zoning change on this property on the loop, please come up.
Mayor and council, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Renee Harvey. My name is Renee Harvey. I reside at 4125 Smallwood Road in Paris. My partner in this property is Russell Lowe, who is not here this evening. This property at 3787 Loop 286 was built in 1964 as the Netzio Trails Boy Scout Council office building. It remained that until the council was absorbed into Council 10 in Dallas. It was mistakenly zoned Single Family 2. The property has never been anything but an office building, and that was just merely an oversight for all those years. The property is under contract for sale to a local physician. The property will remain an office. They are needing a commercial zoning because in addition to the office, additional equipment must be stored in a pod or a separate building that will have to comply with the ordinances of the city of Paris. Part of the property is zoned commercial, and it is in the long-range plans as commercial property. I'm sorry. I respectfully ask that the zoning be changed from single-family to commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council in favor or in opposition to this zoning change? Please step up. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion or questions.
I remember, didn't you come before us once before? But there wasn't a clear use for the property, correct?
Back then, they were trying to change it to industrial, as I recall. Was that not correct? It was, what were they trying to change it to back
It's
then?
commercial, but I think there was no buyer.
Leave it open.
Yeah.
So that anything, because we
Yeah.
weren't, I don't think the owner was sure what they wanted. They just knew that they wanted to sell the property. So it's nice that you came back with a specific use. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think this is appropriate too. That building's been vacant for a long time and it's an office building, so.
It's been hard to see that empty building.
All right, any other discussion on this? I'll entertain a motion on this. Motion,
Motion to approve the zoning change at 3787 Northwest Loop 286.
got a motion
Second the
and a
motion.
second. All in favor? Everyone, unanimous? Okay, thank you. All right, next is item number 12, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Skylar Birchenall for a change in zoning from an agricultural to a neighborhood services district in the city of Paris, block 329, lot 5B, LCAD 18881, located in the 3800 block of Southwest Loop 286. Ms. Easton.
Skylar Birchenall is proposing a development on the Southwest Loop. He's proposing an office building on the loop frontage with a number of living units, likely a senior living is what's been discussed so far with triplexes and quadplexes on the back part of the lot. So this is kind of a medium density residential with an office component. It does have loop frontage, and all access to the property would be from the loop, so it wouldn't impose any disruption to the neighborhood. Staff is in favor of this change, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with the 5-0 vote.
All right, open the public hearing on this. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition to this, please step up. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it for council discussion. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Carla, has there been any opposition, strong opposition from the residents there? I know there's a church right up the road also from what would be the access.
No, there hasn't been any opposition. I think there were a couple of the input forms that were signed that just checked opposed from a neighbor on Sage Trail that's to the north, but no reason, and I don't believe they spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Easton, is there anything before we vote on this, on the limit of number of businesses and the number of parking spaces that would be required? I know this particular developer has some property on the loop that has 3 or 4 businesses all in one building, and slabs of granite or something out front.
Yeah, I believe that's in an industrial district, and so some of those things are allowed in the industrial zoning district. It's all part of our zoning regulations, and so at the time they come in with their site plan, depending on the use of the building, it's based on square footage and number of employees and all of those things. But yes, there's minimum parking requirements. There's also minimum setbacks for screening and buffering and landscaping and all of those things. And so that comes in at the time of development. We handle that with our site plan review. At this point, we don't really know his site plan yet. He's trying to get the zoning changed to know if he can proceed with the project.
Well, maybe I'll have to go look at the landscaping. I didn't know that had been put in on the other property. Okay.
Any other comments, questions, or discussion? Ms. Easton, I'll let you answer that.
Sure. In straight zoning, we do not require a site plan. There are specific use permits where we do require a site plan, and any planned development zoning district, which is basically the site plan is the zoning. Those are the times in which we have to have a plan beforehand. In most cases, for straight zoning, you get the property zoned on how you want to use it, and then you proceed with site development and platting.
That would be a future item that would come in front of the council, and then there would be a discussion about it, and then that's the time you would be allowed to, express your concern about anything. Yeah. Okay.
We
All right.
send notifications to everyone within 200 feet of the property.
Yeah. Okay, any other council discussion on this or anything?
Well, I think that also too, it should be noted that you'll bring back a site plan for us to approve. So we'll be able to see how it sits on the property, and we'll be able to count the parking spots and that kind of thing. Isn't that correct?
Site plan is typically approved administratively unless it's an SUP, a specific use permit, or a plan development. Those are the 2 districts in which the council approval of the site plan is required. You get to approve the plat. You always see the plat in any development case, but the site plan can be approved administratively if it's in a straight zoning district. So there's sometimes that it comes before, it's written into the zoning regulations that way.
Difference between a plat and a plan.
The site plan kind of lays out the buildings and the parking spaces and water and sewer services and all of those things. The plat is more of a boundary survey with easements and fire lanes and all of the development requirements identified on the plat. It gets filed as an official plat of record with the county.
Like a survey.
Yeah.
It's like a survey.
So it's not what we want to see. We want to see the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, would be. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the zoning change from agriculture to neighborhood services.
Got a motion? Any second? I'll second it. All in favor? Raise your hands. All opposed? Okay, 2 opposed. Okay, so it passes. Item number 13, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Krista Brown on behalf of Norman Montgomery Jr. for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district, number 2, SF2, to a neighborhood service district, NS, in the City of Paris, Block 294, Lot 11, LCAD 18507, located at 426 Northeast 30th.
Krista Brown is requesting this zoning change so that she can build a new beauty and tanning salon and spa on this corner. I think she has an existing business in town and is proposing to build new construction here and relocate to this location. The future land use does recommend low-density residential, and it is adjacent to the south. There is a single-family residence, but it's also very near to medical offices, a senior living facility, and other office buildings, and it's kind of on that corner that could go either way. Staff is not opposed to this because we feel like it could be designed in a way that's not going to affect either the neighborhood to the northeast or to the homes to the south. And in fact, the neighbor that lives to the south spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in favor of this project. So with that, P&Z did recommend approval 5-0, and staff supports this change.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing on this. Anyone wishing to speak on this, either for or against, please step up and you'll have the mic. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion and or questions.
This is in my district. I drove by there, parked and took some pictures. Just a couple of questions. Again, parking. We've allowed duplexes, triplexes, all kinds of buildings to go in, and like now on 20th Northeast, where a new triplex is, there is a, I guess it's a dedicated shoulder space there. Maybe it's meant for a bike lane. It's not, it doesn't say no parking, but I'd pass by there and there's empty parking spaces in front of the apartments, but 2 cars parked there all day today. So I want to make sure that there's ample parking. And second question, Ms. Easton, is will the developer be required to put a privacy fence to the south and to the east next to the homes that are around it?
Yeah, because this is a different type of zoning on our, where you have an incompatible use between residential and a commercial type structure, then yes, then screening and buffering is required. They can do a privacy fence, or they could do a living screen with their landscaping or something like that to buffer that.
Good, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, any other discussion? All right, anybody want to make a motion?
I have one more question. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
It just kind of came to me. You know, when we zoned this for, let's see, Neighborhood Services District, what if they decide at the last minute they don't want to put in a beauty and tanning salon or spa? What if they want to put something in like a convenience store?
It runs with the land, so zoning runs with the land.
So can they put in a convenience store instead of a tanning salon and a spa?
There are certain stores
If they change their mind?
that are allowed in neighborhood services, but typically if it's like they couldn't put in an auto fueling station, that has to go in commercial and it requires an SUP. So there's a long list of what could go in, and I apologize, I don't know that off the top of my head. I know like a laundromat is allowable. So there's a number of things that are allowed in neighborhood service, but not an auto fueling station or like a gas station,
You know,
convenience store.
I don't mind going in zoning things for like neighborhood services, but that's so broad. And if we go ahead and plan neighborhood services and change the zoning right there, because it's so close to where people live, and then, oh, they decide to put in a laundromat because they can, well, that's a whole different, situation than a tanning salon and a beauty shop. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Is there anything that we can do to tag on to these neighborhood services that's not going to be that's not going to be what they that they can't change their mind and put something else in that might not be as neighborhood friendly as maybe a tanning salon and a beauty shop?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, or maybe it was early last year, we did a review of what's allowable in general retail and commercial districts. At that time, we didn't review neighborhood services, but it would have been a good time to do so because it's so similar to general retail and some of the uses that are allowed there. And so that is something that the chairman of the P&Z has mentioned. We haven't actually brought it as an agenda item, but that would be a great project for a city planner to do, which we hope to hire. So that's the type of thing, if we can evaluate what's allowed in neighborhood service and then add more specific use permits to some of those uses that you feel might be of concern, then it would require an SUP every time, and the SUP runs with the land. But I don't know. I'll think on ways to accomplish that. But as it is right now, neighborhood services and this use in a neighborhood service does not require an SUP. It's straight zoning. So if they change their mind after the zoning is changed, any allowable use in that zoning district would be allowed on this property.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussion? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change from a single-family dwelling SF2 to neighborhood services.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Okay. Item passes. Item number 14, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Michael Davidson and Brian Scott for a change in zoning from a two-family dwelling district, 2F, to a four-family dwelling district, 4F, in the City of Paris, Block 70B, Lot 10, LCAD 14723, located at 1629 Pine Bluff. Ms. Easton.
I will note that items 14 and 15 on your agenda are the same project, and so there's one memo for these two, but it's two separate hearings. Brian Scott and Mike Davidson are proposing to develop these two lots and subdivide them and basically combine the lot in order to create, to build a quadplex, which is a 4-unit building. Currently, the zoning is 2F, which would allow a single duplex on each lot, and so there's no net increase in the number of units that are being proposed. It's just the type of structure that would be built. Currently, it's zoned 2F. There's some duplexes in the area. There's a number of single-family homes in the area, but duplexes are currently allowed. The future land use plan does recommend low-density residential. However, that area is kind of a little hot spot for neighborhood services already. You've got the existing laundromat. You've got a cemetery to the south and a florist. As you move towards 20th Street, you're getting into other uses like the hair salon. And so, a quadplex is not inappropriate for that transition area where you're going kind of from a single family towards the more business use. Staff is not opposed to this. As I said, there's no increase in the number of living units. It's just a different way of building it and orienting on the lot. They are proposing an access drive on the 17th instead of Pine Bluff, which would reduce the number of access points on Pine Bluff. So staff is in support, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval 5-0.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing on this, so anybody that wants to come up and talk about this, there were some people at the early that were wanting to talk, so now's the time to do it if you want to. We'll also have another public hearing for the second piece of property. So it's open now. Come on, give us your name, address, and...
Shirley Hayes, 1618 Pine Bluff, Paris, Texas. At the zoning thing, we were told that that our property would become more valuable if apartments, so to speak, go across the street. What kind of, in writing, do we have? Just somebody say so? I would like to see some proof if I could, and then I'll just get out of the way. But I really need, we've got a lot of money into our house, and we've tried to improve things, and we volunteer, we do all kinds of things in Paris, and all we want is a little respect back. And I do apologize for talking earlier. We're new at this. I guess that's kind of obvious. We didn't know when to speak. So we do appreciate the time and all this that you all have. that I hope that you can understand why we are so frustrated because there's not enough room on our street as it is for the traffic. If you could get them to put up some red lights, some stop signs, speed bumps, I'd be glad. We've even offered the police our front driveway, said, well, y'all can park here to catch people, because people aren't just going 30, 40 miles an hour. They're going 67, 70, and they're, you know, the little fancy motorcycles, they're racing down the street because it's all concrete, see, and they race down the street to the stop sign. So that's what we're hearing all the time. And I mean, if we wanted that noise, we would have stayed, you know, in the city. And we were just so thankful. 10 years ago when we bought our property, we didn't have this problem. It was just a nice, everybody liked each other, and I know things change. But then some things get worse, and I'm afraid it's going to get even worse. So I do appreciate y'all's help with this matter, and I'll leave you alone now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Step up, please.
Sorry about earlier.
Oh, you were perfectly within your rights to do that. I just was, it's probably more appropriate here.
Right. I did have a couple questions. I kind of feel violated in a way that I thought the whole street was going to be the way it was originally, a housing tract. In fact, I've seen some empty lots where they have installed houses, you know. And then this pops up. I was very surprised, but then I kind of see where it's going. That you got the buildings on apartments at the end of 20th. I kind of see how it's flowing, but I just want to ask you a question. If you were in my situation. See, I wouldn't have bought the house if I knew this was going to happen. I don't know. Do any of you feel like buying a house next to an apartment complex? I mean, I really like to know. You know, I feel like my feelings don't matter. Do any of you live right next door to an apartment building? Because I came a long ways for this, and I feel kind of like biased. I mean, I really like to know if any of you would buy a house like that. And I'd like an answer. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address council? Step up, please.
Yes, my name is Brian Scott. I live at 2830 Oak Creek Drive here in Paris. What we're petitioning the council for is, like Ms. Easton already prefaced, a change from a 2F zoning to a 4F. We can already do what we want to do. By changing the zoning from 2F to 4F, it's going to make it more feasible for us. It's better for everybody involved. Access points off 17th Street, as she said. Takes the traffic count off of Pine Bluff, which is a more common thoroughfare. You know, some of the comments that have been made, you know, it's, like I said, what we want to do, we can already do the way it's zoned now. We'd prefer to change to 4F. You know,
You could build 2 duplexes right there, right now, if you
right
could, without
now,
changing
the
the
difference
zoning.
is we build 2 duplexes. The
Yeah.
entrance point's going to be off Pine Bluff Street. Yeah. You know, it's a if you buy a house and there's a vacant lot next to you for sale, and you don't want anybody to buy and build there, maybe you ought to buy that lot. You know, that would prevent that. We don't want to be bad neighbors. We want to get along. It's not going to be 2-story commercial buildings as was stated in the last meeting. Excuse me. You know, it's going to improve the value of the area. Right now, across the street is a laundromat. I've been over picking up trash, and there's some shady things that go on at that laundromat. There's I would think that most of the criminal activity likes when nobody's looking. You know, vacant lot there is gonna breed some of that activity. You know, we put structure there, which is a significant investment on our part financially. It's gonna limit some of that. The other comments that were made about the speeding traffic, not stopping at the stop sign, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're wanting to do. That's a policing issue. And I think that goes on in most parts of the community. People run stop signs everywhere, not just right there. So, that's what we'd like. I want to thank y'all for your time. Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open it up for council discussion. I'll simply start out by, it's currently zoned so that they could build a duplex on one lot and a duplex on the other lot, and they wouldn't have to come in front of the council, so keep that in mind. But they're wanting to build a quadruplex, which would force all the traffic onto 17th Street, and they can accomplish that. Anybody have any questions or discussion? Go.
Comment.
Yeah.
You know, I do, you know, I take these zoning changes real seriously, you know, and I also take seriously when we get a request, just like Mr. Scott's request to, you know, go into a neighborhood and put a quadplex. And it does create, you know, some concern. But I want to tell you something. I've looked within my district, and I've seen some really nice looking apartment complexes and quadplexes. They look really nice. In fact, I can't even tell that that's what they are. I mean, they're very well landscaped. You know, we talked about new construction having nice landscaping, and I'm not talking about fancy landscaping. I'm just talking about some kind of bushes and things. I mean, just some kind of greenery so that it just looks like somebody lives there. So I know that it can be done nicely. And the thing that would concern me, and you stated already, Mr. Scott, that, you know, it's not going to be 2-story or 3-story or anything. It's going to kind of fit in with the neighborhood. So, you know, I like that. I like something that's being built that is, even though it's multifamily, it also kind of blends in well with what's going on, you know. And there's sometimes when we're presented with duplexes and things like that people want to put in, they don't tell us it's 2-story. And we find out it's 2-story when we drive by and look at it, and it's like, holy cow, you know, I thought we were just, you know, approving a 1-story. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. And I don't have a problem with his, you know, because like he said, he's going to, if it's 2-story and he can do it, or it's 1-story, and he's going to have the egress and ingress on 17th Street, then that should alleviate a lot of the concern that the couple over here had with regard to Pine Bluff being even more congested. And I do realize they have to go from 17th Street on somewhere, but we're only talking about 4 people, or 4, you know, 4 units. So, you know, at this point, I don't really think that it's going to be a concern, and I do believe that it will help, the development will help the neighborhood, as opposed to a vacant lot that just sits there and, you know, city has to mow or somebody has to mow. So, you know, I do believe that this might be a really nice enhancement to the neighborhood.
All right, any comments, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Savage, y'all got
Well,
anything?
I'd like to say, I really felt Mr. Smith's comments about, would you want a duplex or apartment built beside your house or the property that you invested in, but considering the fact that it's already zoned for duplexes anyway, so it's gonna happen either way. So I'm not opposed to, you know, changing this ordinance because it's already zoned for, you know, duplexes anyway. So it's not gonna change anything not to vote this change in.
Well, you got him, Mr. Hughes?
Thank you. I'm not opposed to it, but I just have to comment that somebody is building duplexes, triplexes all over town, and they're real contemporary looking and not very much landscaping at all. And this is one of our historic streets. in Paris. And I don't think that going in and building, you know, Mr. Scott, something really contemporary, there are places in town where that would probably belong, but and I know it's cheaper on a builder if you use the same format every time, but this, because there's one right behind it that's being built, and I drove by there, very narrow street, in very poor condition. I wrote the name of the street down, I took pictures, but I don't have them with me.
Price.
But- I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Price.
Yes,
Price,
yes.
and there's a two-story.
And the house on the corner there was a pickup truck parked in front, and I had to go up almost nearly on the property where the duplex is being built to get to the corner. And again, we have a problem in Paris with people parking on the street rather than in their driveways and designated places. And it creates traffic hazards because you can't see around it. And I don't know, I just wish we could keep more of the flavor of our older neighborhoods. I'm not opposed to the quadruplex.
Well, I mean, it's already, like you say, he can build now without anything, and what he's proposed is actually attempting to solve their problem. And I was gonna bring up that, I mean, right behind them, that someone's already built one. So, they're coming to the neighborhood anyway.
And
Unfortunately, that's what it's coming to. I mean, we have a lot of vacant lots in Paris, and we have someone that wants to put up a roof on there. I think we have to.
Is this Ms. Stone's district?
Yes, I
think
it
so.
is.
Yeah.
Sounds right. 17 Bluff.
And some things that were brought up that are not on topic for this discussion, so we're not allowed to discuss it, but perhaps, I've heard from two different people now complaints about cars going too fast and trucks being where trucks shouldn't be, and perhaps that's a discussion we'll have for a future agenda item as to whether or not a speed bump would be appropriate or whether or not lowering the speed limit would be appropriate. I used to live on Pine Bluff. I grew up there. And so we can't discuss that tonight because it'll be off topic and it'll violate open meetings. But it is something that I think people would be open for discussing, and it could be brought to the Traffic Commission, and see if that's something that's doable. So that might address some of your concerns.
I have one other question. Mr. Scott, are you planning on-site parking for your residents in your quadruplex? They are going to be required to park on the site, not on the street? Very good. I assume you're Mr. Davidson? Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
How many spaces do you plan?
Two spots per unit. There's 2 spots minimum per unit, so.
I'm being motioned by the audiovisual guy that in anything that if you want to add something to the conversation, step up to the mic or it doesn't make it on the recorder. So, okay. All right, any other discussion on this?
Question, are we doing 14 and 15 together?
Oh, we got to do them separately. We got to do 14 first. We'll have to vote on that, and then we'll have to do the same thing over again. Hopefully be a lot shorter for the second one.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to change the zoning from a 2-family dwelling 2F to a 4-family dwelling at 1629 Pine Bluff.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. The next item is very similar. It's the second piece of property. Discuss, conduct a public hearing, act on an ordinance considering the petition of Michael Davidson and Brian Scott for a change in zoning from a 2-family dwelling district to a 4-family dwelling district in the city of Paris, Block 70B, Lot 11, LCAD 14724, located at 1639 Pine Bluff. Anything else to say? Okay, I'll open the public hearing for the second plot of land, which we're required by law to do. It's open. Anyone wishing to add anything to the comments you've already made? Seeing nothing, I will close the public hearing. And any other comments from the council?
I'll make a motion to change it from a two-family dwelling District 2F to a four-family dwelling District 4F at 1639 Pine Bluff.
Seconded.
All in favor? Well, unanimous, thank you. Okay, the next item is something, I put this on the agenda simply because Mr. Yates contacted me, and I met with him regarding the situation on 17th Street and 17th Street Northeast and Martin Luther King, because of some ongoing problems that they'd had problems with, and they wanted to voice. I ended up meeting with him, and then I ended up meeting with about 10 people. I concluded by telling them that I would put it on the agenda, and the way I'd like to do this is I would like for the people to come up first and tell us their concerns, the things that have happened, fill us in on everything, and then I'll let the city explain what's going on, where we are, and maybe when we're going to get this thing fixed for you guys. So I'd like for the people that live in that area that have concerns, I'd like for you to come up and one by one and address us and the city. And each one, if you'll give us your name and address, and you can talk as long as you want to and ask questions. Everybody, please keep it civil.
My name is Marcus Yates.
Yes, sir.
I live at 932 Fitzhugh, but my mom lives on 17th Northeast, has been a resident there for over 50 years. So in reference to the street, to my understanding, the contractor started on that street back in November of last year. And at this point, they're going backward and forth. Don't look like any progress is being made. Ms. Carla did send a letter out to the residents of Martin Luther King and 17th Street saying that the contract was going to get started on August the 4th, and it would probably take about 2 to 4 weeks upon completion, which I do have a copy of that letter that she sent to the residents. And I also have pictures that I have taken on 17th Northeast and also Martin Luther King. We talked to the contractor.
If you want to give those pictures to Ms. Ellis, she can get them on the monitor so you can discuss them up there as they come up.
There are some before pictures and after pictures.
Oh, they're just photographs,
There are
okay.
some-
Okay.
I drive it every day.
But let's look at, not everybody's seen it perhaps, I'm sorry we didn't have the video.
Yeah, there are some before pictures and after pictures. There are pictures of 17th Northeast and also Martin Luther King. And on yesterday, I got out and I wrote 6th Street and 8th Street because I understand the same contractors did the work on 6th Street and 8th Street. I don't know if any of y'all have taken time out to ride those streets or not. When you invest your money, you need to go and see, the end results. As you will see on those pictures there, where on 6th and 8th Street, the street is falling in. We've been hearing so much about density test. And as you see on those pictures on 17th and Martin Luther King, where there is mud. I mean, I'm not a contractor, I'm not an engineer, I don't know anything about that, but I do know you do have to have a firm foundation before you do anything. But as of now, hey, that street is soft. It is soft, and the pictures are there to prove how soft they are. Is the contractors here tonight?
Is the contractor here? Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
okay.
we'll let them give us an explanation here when y'all are done talking. We'll let a little back and forth on that.
Okay, well, one of my questions is, what are your plans as far as completing? Ms. Easton wrote the letter to the residents, and I have a copy here stating that it would probably take from 2 to 4 weeks. And I understand that it has been raining, but again, too, this has been going on ever since November. The contractors will come over there, they will dig out mud, they will put mud right back in the same spot. We have some people that lives on this street that's retired and seeing everything that's going on. And in those pictures, you will also see the mud. And also, from what I can gather, is a non-firm foundation. From what I understand, they're considering start asphalting on Thursday. And if you look at those pictures there, my friend, you can see that street is nowhere close to being ready for asphalt. To back that up, the pictures that I took on yesterday on 6th Street and 8th Street, the way the streets are caving in. So the question that I have, where the streets have caved in, I got several pictures where someone has came and replaced part of the street. May I ask a question, who replaced the street? You know, okay, y'all will give me the answer later, but, you know, to me, that just giveaway money. If the contractors have bid at a job, and they got inspectors, they got engineers, they should have all the knowledge as far as making a firm foundation. But again, too, as you see on those pictures, how the streets are sinking in. And another question I have in reference to, how much is this project going to cost the city? Because if they come in and do like they did 6th and 8th Street, the city of Paris will constantly be going back and forth replacing it. Me personally, I would rather see them I'd rather see them get someone that definitely know what they're doing to put a firm foundation down, so therefore our tax dollars will not continue to go on 17th Street and Martin Luther King. And to top that off, I mean, it's very inconvenient. One question. Thank you, Mayor, for
Mr.
coming.
Savage had a question for you.
When you said 6th and 8th Street, are you talking about southeast?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And really, I would love for you guys to drive that street because, I mean, as I was riding down there, it was about like going up a rub board. Probably where they cut trenches out to put water lines, sewer lines, whatever. You can feel that. You know, as I say, you know, hey, if you pay somebody to do a job, you need to go behind them, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, or a year, to see if the job is holding up. And another question I have to the contractors, how long will they stand behind the job in which they're doing? And from my understanding, the job on 6th and 8th Street was done on last year. I mean, I feel personally that the city should not have anything to do with that. It should be held to the person that did the contract work.
Okay, any questions from Mr. Yates, from the council?
Well, I remember our discussing this a couple years ago, 6th and 8th Street, and that, if you remember, was explained that the development of that road wasn't developed right. It was just made, and they just put some asphalt over it just to kind of keep it from deteriorating even more. But it had a poor base to begin with. It really needs, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember well, it needs to kind of really be dug up and put in like a maybe 17th Street down here, 17th Southeast, between Clarksville and Lamar Avenue. You know how nice that was and how they had to dig down into that. And we just didn't have the, I don't think we had the money to put into 8th and 6th at the time, but that it has such a poor ground that whatever you did, I mean, it wasn't going to last anyway.
Well,
but I will tell you this. I know exactly how you all feel on 17th Street because the same thing happened to us on Church Street, where our streets looked just like this for 2 years. And it took that project was forever. I wouldn't even drive on my own street to get to my own house, but a half a block because it was so horrible.
We're trying to do the same thing likewise.
Hopefully, with this tonight, we can get your street back to, you know.
Me personally,
really
I would
nice,
say
but-
not get in a hurry. Make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's, so therefore, you know, once the street is in, you will not have to be worried about, you know, dips and dips and dips. I mean, you know, that's one of the major concerns in which I have, because, I mean, why spend money on something that you got to come back 3 months later and start doing street repairs?
I agree. That's one thing that we kind of wanted to talk about, and I appreciate that comment of yours, yeah.
Stephanie? Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, and I know these things are kind of tied together.
Your microphone didn't turn on.
I'll come up here, if you don't mind, Mr. Gates.
Sure.
I know that we have kind of a global street and sewer project going on, but I would caution you that our agenda items tonight are limited to these 2 projects, and just for open meetings and posting requirements, I'm a little concerned if we get too far off on the weeds on other projects.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Mr. Yates, you have anything else for us?
No, I don't, but there are several other
Yeah,
people.
I'll let everyone come up one at a time, and then when y'all are all done, I'd like to ask Ms. Easton, explain the status of it, how we got where we are, and how we're going to get out of this. So, but I want y'all to go first, so go ahead. Next person, please.
Those were great pictures too, by the way, Mr. Yates. Those were really, said a whole lot there.
My name is Herbert Preston. I live at 1710 Martin Luther King. My concern, I have a lot of concerns, but I'll just stick with one. This has been going on a long time, but my concern is that when you start a project like this, during the time that you're waiting for density tests to come back, isn't it reasonable to keep the road in some type of passable condition? It's utterly ridiculous the condition that road was in during the time. Now, I understand, but I just think there are things that could have been done to keep the road in much better condition than it's been in all this time. It's a little bit ridiculous when it's obvious there are trenches and holes, and you come out and you put a little gravel and dirt in it, which doesn't stay there. And right in front of my house, they dumped a wagon load of gravel and dirt, which didn't even stay where it was supposed to be. And at least once a week, I would go out and take my big push broom and push the gravel out of the gutter and get it out of my yard where cars would come by and throw it up in the yard and push it back out where it was supposed to be. That's not my job. You know, that's something the contractor or someone else is supposed to take care of. So why is there gravel not where it's supposed to be? You put it out there, it's supposed to stay in compact, right? That's the whole point of it. But you put so much, you put it out there in such a way that it won't even stay where it's supposed to be.
And it's big pieces of.
And they're
it's
huge
rock.
pieces. It's rock, it's not gravel. It's rock. I don't know where they got the rock from, but stuff they had left over from who knows what. But they put that rock out there, so I'd come out there with my broom. I know people thought it was crazy, but I couldn't push it back out there where it's supposed to be. You know, hopefully, and it still wouldn't compact. It just get pushed again back into the gutter, and cars come by and hit it, trucks, and it's up in my yard. I have to dig the rocks out of my yard so I can mow it. I'm just saying, in a case like that, it's just, I think the contractor or somebody should keep the road in a passable condition, in much better condition than that road was in, because it's totally ridiculous. And that's my really, one of my concerns. Other people will speak to other concerns. And I hope that when this road is finished, we have a good product, you know, something that will stay with us for a while and won't deteriorate and be worse than what we had to start with. Okay? That's my concern.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My name is Vanessa Preston. I live at 1710 Martin Luther King. That's my husband. I was coming home when this project at the intersection of Martin Luther King and 17 started, when they came up to that intersection. So I was getting out of the car one day, and one of the workers was standing out in front of the yard. So I said, let me go out here and see if they're going to start at this intersection. So I went out and asked him. He said, sure. And he just, as a matter of factly, I mean, with no feeling or anything, he said, well, in the morning when you get up, your big crepe myrtle tree in your mailbox you got out there is probably going to be gone. So I said, well, you weren't going to tell me this? We don't have to tell you. The city owns up to that water meter. I said, but that's not the point. Common courtesy. We're going to start on your street tomorrow. We may have to dig your crepe myrtle up. It's huge. And take your mailbox up. Common courtesy. Also, there are two houses on the side of the street we live on. The one right next to us, nobody's in it. And then 3 doors down, the people aren't there very often. So the workers didn't ever see the people. Common courtesy again. If you dig up the meter, put that dirt to the side. When you get ready to put it back, put that dirt back. It's ridiculous, the white rock and stuff that they put back into those yards. I guarantee you, there are neighborhoods in Paris that wouldn't have happened in. No, we don't have any $200,000 and $300,000 houses down there, but I guarantee you there are neighborhoods in other parts of this town that would not have happened in. Common courtesy. Common courtesy. That's all we're asking for is common courtesy.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else who's a resident there wish to speak?
Yeah, I was up here before, Cecil Hutchings. I live on 1500 6 Southeast. And I personally watched these contractors do our roads, and I'm sure that they done these ladies and gentlemen's road the same way.
Mayor.
We got to keep it on the 7th, and so limit your discussion just
Okay.
because our open meetings to 7th, and MLK.
I understand that. But my main
That's-
complaint is when you ask and get to speak to the contractor, and they promise you that they'll bring gravel back. You never see the gravel. You never get another phone call. No one ever answers your phone. Something's got to be done. They should have done all of our roads the same way they done 17th, dug it up, replaced the whole thing. I'm sure they were paid substantially enough to do this.
Just a little under $25 million, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could have done better than what they did.
Anybody else that's a resident there that hadn't spoken, please come up and talk to us. We'd like to hear from you, and then we'll move to the next phase.
Yes, my name is Linda Williams. I live at 1730 Martin Luther King for over 46 years. And this is the first time in all that time that we've had major problems with the street. And it's been ongoing since, I'd say, March. They've been out, and then they've come several times, and as a matter of fact, they came back out Saturday, and then they were there today. And he said something didn't pass, so it's an ongoing problem. And I've questioned different things, and he said, well, we only do the digging and put the pipes in, and the city handles taking care of the street. And my question, and I'd like to see that the same things be done that's done on Church Street and 17 Southeast. I'd like to see Martin Luther King Jr. Drive given the same respect. And I'd also like to add that we need speed bumps, because even with the street the way it is, cars go up and down that street throwing rocks. You're kind of afraid to be out there, because if they hit a rock, you could get hit
We
in the
clearly
chest.
need to have an agenda item about
Yes.
speed bumps all over town.
Yes.
So we'll back away from that right now, but that's
Yes,
something
okay.
for another day,
All
for
right.
sure.
But I'd like to see the same respect done to Martin Luther King as Church Street and 17 Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else that's a resident that wants to come talk to us.
My name is Margaret Joe, and I have lived on 17th Northeast for 51 years. And my house, my late husband had built, was the second house on 17th, that part of 17th Northeast. And we had the street fixed before, but we have never had it fixed as much as it is now. And I talked to some of the people that was working, and they said they were not in Paris. They lived other places. And what I wonder and want is for the street get fixed, because it is a lot of stuff that you drive down and you go down and you get up and all of that. So hopefully one day they will get the street fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joe. Anyone else in the community that wishes to speak? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Charles Edward Franson, and I stay at 1210 17th Street Northeast, right on the corner of 17th and Martin Luther King. The time now that it takes me back to, like, it was back in the 80s when Blake Road is turned into Martin Luther King. It wasn't nothing but a trail. 17th and Martin Luther King look like a trail. They have busted water lines, gas lines, and everything else since they've been over there. They've been over there for about 10 months, and ain't nothing been done about the situation. They was out there today working on Martin Luther King, tearing it up again. They come talking about they gonna put concrete in today. Did they bring concrete down there? No. They put sand on the top of that dirt that they pulled away. And that's not gonna solve the problem. It ain't gonna solve it. And the contractor they got, he is not reliable, he's not respectable. One day he was blocking my driveway, and I told him, I said, I got to get out, sir. He said, I'm not moving. I said, why not? I said, I got to go to the doctor, and that's where I'm at. So I told him, I said, I'm going to get in my car, and I said, I'm going to put it in reverse. I'm going to back up. If I had to move your pickup out of the driveway, I said, I will do it. He said, well, do it. I got in the car, and I backed up. He moved. And he's a terrible guy. He don't have no respect for nobody. I know he don't have no respect for me. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
To the councilman, to all that are here today, I am Bishop Connis Mays. I'm the pastor of the New Salem Baptist Church, and I have a concern also for the Martin Luther King Street and also 17th Street. I have members of my church who live in this area on Martin Luther King. I have members who live on 17th Street, and it is a disgrace. And I'm not prejudiced at all. And I do believe, and I've seen faster work done quicker in the white community than in the black community. And I don't know why it's taking so long to get something done and to make Paris look good. Now, we say that we want Paris to look great, but this is pathetic. Something need to be done about this. I don't know who these contractors are or who these people are or who hired them, but something need to be done about this.
They're here, and hopefully you will get a satisfactory explanation. This is gonna go for a little while.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, with no one else from the community, I'd like to invite Ms. Easton and the contractors to come up and give their side of the story here and the explanation for why this is taking so long, and as well as the timetable for when we can expect to get it fixed.
All right. As you know, this is the $24 million contract with Oscar Into Contracting. They're replacing water and sewer all over town. This is called the Package 4 project, and it included sewer replacement starting from Clement Road with a low spot down at the floodplain, along Clement, down 17th, along MLK, and up the hill to 20th, where we tied into an existing sewer there. The work began in January. I think they mobilized a little bit in the winter months, but with the holidays, I don't know that much was done until January of 2020. The entire time they experienced wet conditions. They were pulling, the gentleman said mud. It was a very wet season, and the material coming out of the trench was saturated. They continued to lay the sewer pipe and trying in an attempt to meet their schedule. But they were just putting that material back in, letting it dry out when they could, but essentially trying to get the sewer in the ground as expeditiously as possible. But I don't believe that they paid as close attention to the backfill material as they were going, because there really wasn't an opportunity to dry it out. They completed the sewer work, I believe it was May-ish, and mobilized their utility crew to another portion of the project while the material testing lab came in to do the density and moisture checks. That's really our compaction test to see if the road is ready for resurfacing. And that's, we would not want to put asphalt on a trench that was not properly compacted or ready, because then it would settle and cause an issue. I believe we took 12 tests in June, and only one of them passed. It was, I think, on MLK, and all of the testing along 17th failed. All of the moisture content tests were too high, and so we were looking at either a groundwater issue or the fact that the material was exposed during wet weather months and was not allowed to properly dry out and compact before they moved along. But in any case, we were not ready for asphalt repair. And that was June. Unfortunately, they, like I said, they had mentioned, or had moved to another area of town, and we're down to one crew. And I'll let the contractor explain that. He can probably handle that better than can I, but I've made multiple requests for additional crews, but at this time, we've just got the one crew. So if they're in a different area, they stop work there to mobilize to a different area. So we were kind of juggling projects at that point. They had committed to moving back to 17th in August, and that's when I did send a letter to the residents, kind of notifying them that the contractor was going to come back and rework some of this. And that's when they moved back, I believe it was the second week in August, to install what we call a trench block. They exposed an area of pipe about 2 foot wide and put flowable fill to try to reduce the amount of moisture going down the trench. They installed a number of those, and then they began reworking the material that was in the trench. They pulled it out, would work it in the warm summer months, let it dry out for a few hours, and then recompact it. And they, I guess a week ago, Saturday, the 19th, I believe, is when we did reach passing compaction tests for all the trenches and the street cuts. So now, over the last week, the residents may have seen the street department out fixing some soft spots because, again, they're under contract for the utility trench, but we could not ask them to repair any other soft spots in the street. And when we plan an asphalt resurfacing, we want the whole thing to be ready. So we have been making some repairs to that. I did take down a few notes. Would you like for me to try to answer those now, or?
Well, we can get into that later, I guess.
Okay.
But the overview, I'd like, continue what you're
Okay.
doing.
Okay. So now, we're ready for street paving. The contractor has said that October 5th, they would be ready to move in. They've actually moved that up to October 1st for milling, which is this Thursday. But beginning October 5th, which is a week from today, they will have their asphalt crew here and be ready to resurface the street. And we're planning for a full width resurfacing for everything. So it won't just be the trench, it'll be full width, and that's on MLK as well as 17th Northeast.
Okay, and the contractor, you have something you want to say to us?
What was your original question, Carla? You had towards me? We're working diligently on our schedule. Crews. We've run into, ever since COVID started, we're actually down 30% company-wide on employees right now for numerous various reasons. And quite frankly, we just didn't have the resources to bring a second crew in at the time. I was able to bring a second crew in for a temporary period to finish the construction on the loop.
You're laid it off on COVID. However, when was this contract given to you?
This contract started in February 25th, 2016.
Actually, I looked it up. The council approved it December of 2015 because I was on the council. But did the contract go into effect in February?
February 25th. Is
Okay, so when did COVID, y'all had 4 years to do that, is that right?
Correct.
And 4 years would put it, what would that put it? That put it February of
February
last
25th.
year, right?
February 25th of this year, 2020.
Okay, this year. So y'all are already, how many months behind?
Can't do quick math off the top of my head. We're approaching the 10-month range.
So did the city notify you of the penalties that there would be? I think there's a $500 a day penalty that you're over. Have y'all started paying that penalty yet?
Correct. It is in our contract, but we've also had almost a full year's worth of rain days since beginning this project.
Do you have the signed form where y'all applied for that rain day? For those rain days, those are, I think, extraordinary weather days. Routine rain is not supposed to factor into this. But did y'all apply for the, did y'all get an extraordinary weather excuse for this?
Correct. So we have the.
So you got 60 days, is that right?
We have the 60 days. And
Did y'all
also-
apply for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to see y'all's application, because according to the contract, you must apply for this, and the city must approve it or disapprove it, and there needs to be an extraordinary weather event. So I'd like to see that as well. But if you're going to blame it on COVID, you should have been done before COVID even hit. So that's not an excuse. So this has gone on for way too long. These residents have been horribly affected by it. I've even had citizens say their streets were torn up starting in November. Now the city says it was started in January. Who's speaking the truth here? When did it start?
We started the construction in January of this year.
Okay, so when the citizens say that their roads were torn up in November, they're just telling me a story?
We did not begin construction on
You did not.
17th until January of this year.
That's not what y'all said, and that's not. So I'd like to solve this. I mean, we got 2 months difference here. Y'all say you didn't start till January, and then the people who live there said you did. And so I got a lot of questions about this.
And Mayor, I think it started on Clement and 17th.
Okay,
And
okay,
then went all the way up to Martin Luther King.
okay. So first off, I'd like to be sure that you're paying the $500 a day penalty that's required. And I'd like to make sure that the 60-day variance that you were given for extraordinary weather event, I'd like to see the proper documentation for that it's been filed out according to the contract and the city responded appropriately. I mean, 60 rain days, I mean, NOAA had to deal with 50% less than that. So I don't know. So what all work is still pending before your contract is finished? Considering you're already 10 months behind by a conservative estimate, what all else do you have left?
We have to finish work on 40th Street Southeast.
Well, what about 12th Street Southeast that you haven't even started? That's part of this contract, is it not? Or has that been taken out of the contract?
12th Street has been taken out of the contract.
When was that taken out of the contract, Ms. Easton?
This is something that was discussed as a part of, because of the issues that we ran into on 6th and 8th. We did not want to proceed with a similar road, and 12th is expected to be the exact same thing. And so we did talk about removing that from their contract and not having them do that.
Has it been removed?
No, sir, we have not
So,
brought the
so
contract.
they
change.
owe us the road between Clarksville and Old Jefferson Road. What's that, 15 blocks that they are required to do, and they're going $500 a day overtime. No, I think they ought to do it. I think they ought to do it and do it overtime, and they ought to pay us the money because of the inconvenience they've given to the citizens and everybody else. I'm not letting them off the hook by saying, oh, that long strip of road that you haven't even started yet, you don't have to do it, actually. So, no, I got a problem with that.
If they don't do it, what would be the amount of they pay back or whatever?
They pay $500 per day that it's not completed. And that's going to add up. They already owe us tens of thousands of dollars on this. Why were large rocks used to fill those trenches in instead of pea gravel or something? Is that the appropriate stuff to put in there?
The city had requested us to use red rock, which is a flex-based material, to repair the trenches with.
But I mean, it knocked out within hours after it was put. I assume it was in people's backyards. I don't think that was appropriate. And again, I don't know who's at fault here, but they suffered because of it. So how certain are we that we're going to be completely finished October 10th, which is what they said in the agenda item?
It's not going to be October 10th, so we're going to have be November the 10th, in that range right there?
No, they said we've got it today. It will be finished October 10th. Is this
17th,
another-
correct. The paving operations will be finished on October the 10th on 17th Street, correct?
Okay, I've got another question. I got a lot of questions. We had 12 compaction tests. 11 of them failed. Seems like something wasn't done right. And I pulled AECOM's control of water during construction, and there's a mandatory the contractor shall submit complete descriptions, drawings, details, and layouts showing the contractor's proposed plans for control of groundwater and surface water prior to commencement of work. Then the contractor won't start the operation of any dewatering pressure relief until the groundwater control plan has been reviewed by the engineer. Then the engineer approves it. So what did y'all follow the contract that was mandatory contract that AECOM sent you for controlling the groundwater? Because if you did, you got a problem because 11 out of your 12 compaction tests failed. Were you controlling the water according to the contract?
So yeah, actually the native ground around our trench, the moisture content in the native ground surrounding our trench is actually higher than our allowable in our compaction test that we have.
Was that not,
So
was that not incorporated into your plan to cover this?
So yeah, we control the groundwater as we're.
Okay, did you produce the plan as required by the contract? Did the city engineer approve the plan that you had to give her? Did you?
That was before I started on this contract.
Okay, well,
I'd have to go
did
back
your
and look.
company do that? It was a mandatory thing. It had to be done. So did you do it? And the city engineer had to approve it. Did your company give it to the city engineer, and did the city engineer approve the groundwater control?
I'll have to go back to the original beginnings of the contract to find
Okay, I'd
that
like to
answer
see a
for you.
copy of your plan as mandated by the contract. AECom wanted it. I'd like to see a copy of that plan. I'd like to see the city engineers signing off on that as she was required to do. Okay. That's about all the questions I have for now. Ms. Easton, do you have anything else you'd like to say to us? And I'm going to open it. I don't want to hog it for everybody. I'd like to open it up for the rest of the council. But this really upsets me because we spent $24 million on this, and it doesn't look like we've done a very good job. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But ask the people that live there whether a very good job has been done. And looking at the other streets that we're not allowed to talk about right now, I'm seeing problems, and I don't want this city to have spent all of this money, and we have sorry streets for the rest of my life and your life and everybody's life, because we're not going to have the money to be able to do this again. One last thing I want to bring up a question. Should the council consider hiring a third party to review this entire project before we accept it and sign off on it? We need to think about that, because we have the right to do that. And it might cost some money, but not nearly as much as the $24 million we may have squandered away on this project. Okay, I'll open it up to you, Ms. Easton, if you have any more comments.
I can attempt to address some of the questions that came up by the residents. One was when will it be complete, and that's going to be October 10th, as we discussed. There was a request for full depth, and I would like to remind the council that at the time that this proposal was put together, and this was a low bid contract in 2015, the decision by the council at that time was to make this a utility project, and this was not a streets project. There was very minimal put in here for street repair. So because of that, we kind of get what we pay for. Church Street costs $3 million. It's a beautiful street, and it should last for a very, very, very long time. But that's not the type of street treatment that we put into this contract, and so this project will not look like that. It will not look like 17th, which was a $2 million project. That was done with street bond money, and it was a separate type of project. It was full depth. We were able to actually go in and completely repair the subgrade. The utilities were done underneath layers and layers of subgrade and asphalt paving. That's not what we're getting with this utility project. We're getting 2 inches of asphalt on top of street cuts. So I just want to make that clear, is this is a different product, and it will not last as long as those other streets will. One thing that we are looking at doing, and the engineer is currently working on pricing for us, and we'll see, we're working with the contractor on a change order for potentially increasing the thickness to 4 inches on 17th Northeast in order to just, we know what happened on 6th and 8th. It didn't last as long as we needed it to. So we want to not repeat that and come up with something that might give us a better product. So that's something that we're considering on 17th, and see if we can fit that within the budget. But again, just want to say, there's a street cut. There will always have been a street cut. And unless we do full width subgrade preparation for the entire road, the ground is going to shift differently. So I just want to make that point.
Understand. Go ahead. Let's go down the road. I'll start on this end. Mr. Hughes, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I got to write my question down.
One of my questions, which you said, is about bringing in a third-party inspector, someone that can go back and make sure, because if you fail 11 out of 12 tests, or 10 out of 11 tests, whichever one it was, that's just not performing well in anything. And I understand that it takes time to do a project. So, Church Street was a long project as well. But I drive Martin Luther King and Clement Road pretty much every day. And if someone was there today, I must have missed them. But it just hadn't been a crew there even after the complaints started coming in, there was no urgency in your company to come back and complete the job and to make our citizens, to satisfy our citizens' concerns at all. And I thank our citizens for coming out. This is what you have to do when you have a problem. And the city council will back you when you come out like y'all did, and I thank y'all for coming and expressing your concerns, because this company wouldn't be here if y'all didn't do that. They would still be on another project in another city or somewhere else. So I thank y'all for coming out and expressing your concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Savage, you got any questions or comments?
Yes. First of all, perception a lot of times become reality. And there's a lot of people in this city that feel like their voices aren't heard. And I understand what you're saying, that the same money that was put into Church Street and 17th Street was not put into this project. That's fine. We know that it would take a long time for Church Street and 17th Street. So why is it taking so long on these other projects that shouldn't require as much time? Because you're not putting as much into it. It doesn't entail the same things. So I feel like the residents in this area, because I travel that road all the time, those streets all the time, and I feel like the people there has been disrespected. I feel like from a timing perspective, they've been disrespected. I feel like from an effort, and I could be wrong as well, but from an effort standpoint, I feel like they've been disrespected. And I really feel like they've been disrespected if the crews are treating them the way they are for things that they own or things that, they've maintained for years. So I just feel like the reason people come up here and complain, and you see all the negativity in the city, there's a reason behind that. That people are not just making this stuff up. There's things happening in this city that makes people feel like systematic things are in place. So to alleviate those type of things, we have to do our jobs, basically, and the people that we hire, that's part of our job. So as a council, the things that we let go on, that's on our backs. So it goes the same way with the city offices and the people that manage the different projects and things. So if we want to alleviate this thought that you have the big eyes and the little U's, then we have to do our jobs, and we have to make sure our contractors do their jobs. And to me, it's ridiculous how long it's taken and the effort that we are putting in as a city on these streets. And it really looks bad. Like I said, perception sometimes becomes reality because of our actions or the lack of.
Ms. Portugal, you'll have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Easton. I don't think any of us are expecting the outcome of Church or 17th Northeast. The issue is doing the job correctly so that it passes testing, which it apparently has now, so we can move on from that. Now it's in a timely manner, which has not been done. And the size of those rocks, I drove my mother down there. I don't know, I have a dear friend who lived on Fitzhugh for almost 70 years. I was going to her house since I was 9. She died in December. But, so that's my route from my house to her house. And when I drove my 94-year-old mother down that way, she said, "This is streets like a washboard," if you're old enough to know what a washboard is. And so it's not that we're not going to have that quality out there. We're not expecting that. We're expecting the street to be finished well, and finished soon.
Ms. Knox, you got the floor.
I'm just curious about the planning process of this. If you're going to dig up a street and lay new utilities in, was there any thought about covering it back up and making it look like it did before you dug it up? I don't understand how something can stay. Well, I lived for 2 years with something uncovered, but, that contractor left town. He hasn't. He's stuck around, and he's trying to do it. But I don't understand the city's role in this, because, I think the city's the one that you hired him. I would have thought that the city would have followed up and made sure that, stuff would get covered up once it got dug up and the sewer line or the utility lines were placed.
Absolutely. So on this contract, we've got city staff, I work with AECom, who's our design consultant, to kind of manage contractual issues, review pay apps, and have our monthly meetings. We have an on-site third-party inspector that's there every day. He takes pictures, he coordinates with the contractor, and he's our eyes in the field. We have books and books of field reports. That's essentially his work. He documents who's there, what they're doing, and overall general compliance with the contract. Then the contractor is responsible for doing the work per the contract documents, the specifications, inspecting their crews, making sure that their crews know what they're doing, and getting the work done. I think because the work was done in very wet months, we didn't shut them down early enough to make them come back and start the compaction process. They wanted to lay the line. It wasn't a good season to dry out material. So at the end of their utility work, they had a project in and of itself to come back and make sure that the trenches were repaired. But they mobilized to another project. And I think that was a mistake, because then they had to come back to 17th, which was part of the wait. And so here we are. I mean, it's a huge
So what are we going to do
inconvenience.
so this doesn't happen again? I mean, are you thinking about plans so that we can get this repaired and looking nice and functional, and then it doesn't happen to us again? Because it's happened so many times. And, you know, it's always the weather. Oh, well, it rained. It's always the weather. Well, it's been raining for a long time. I would have thought we would have had some plans in place so that people are not inconvenienced for years. And that's what's happening. People are inconvenienced for years.
Most total street reconstruction projects are 10 to 12 months. 17th was that way. Church Street was longer than that. But yeah, it's a long process. And then the weather, I think in 2016 and 17, we had those really, really heavy rain events, and it seemed like it rained for a month. So weather plays into construction, but I'm not here to make excuses for the contractor. That's not what I'm trying to do. These guys need to get over there and fix the street. We've been asking them to, pleading with them. I mean, I've gotten calls from these residents for 3 months now. Brent's familiar with me calling him saying, go fix the road weekly, go patch, go put more rock in that road, go fix it. Because every time it rains, the gravel makes its way out of the trench, and then you've got that dip again. So it's a continuous.
Before it rains, 2 days after it's put in there.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
might want to think about some different rock
Yeah.
that might stay, or better
Yeah.
yet, just let's finish the project.
Yeah, that's what we're, at this point, we're there. You know, that's coming next week. And so that's the good news in all of this. I certainly hate that it's been such an inconvenience and a long delay for the neighborhood. But I'm glad to be able to say that they're going to be there next week paving.
Mr. Pilgrim, you got the floor.
What's the gentleman's name with the construction company?
My name's Brent Buffy, BUFE.
Brent, I've been where you've been before, and it's not fun taking mud. But I will tell you, I come from a family that we ran and owned a family construction company. I looked up Oscar Render Construction. It's operating in 42 U.S. states today. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
You got a lot of projects, right?
Yes, sir.
The citizens of Paris, which you've heard from a few of them tonight. I've got some business owners just north of some of the residents here as well. It's a problem. It is a problem, and it was a problem that started in January, and I understand weather. I understand it probably better than anybody. We farm just south of town here, and rain and weather events are crucial in our business. However, attitude and way that we do things is another way. That's something we can control. We can't control the weather. We can control our attitude. We can control the way that we get a job done. In 42 U.S. states, and we can't get another crew, that's unacceptable. And I understand. It's spread thin, and COVID's hit, and we've had a lot of stuff going on. But $34 billion in total revenue with 3,000 dedicated full-time employees, Paris means business. We're $24 million in this project, and we are going to finish it with or without you. And this council's behind that. I'm behind that. The citizens of Paris are behind that. And we're not going to stand second. We're not going to stand second grade work. We're not going to stand in second place. We want our job done complete the way that we made our contract with you, and y'all bid it out. If you misbid it, I'm sorry. I've misbidded before too. I've sent loads of stuff places that I had to pay for it out of my pocket, and it isn't fun, you can't make that call. I bet there's a man last name Renda that probably runs that operation that probably can. And I would definitely, and I think it would be worth our time to write a letter or maybe some correspondence to someone last name Renda or whoever owns Southland Holdings, which is y'all's parent company and owns your company, and explain to them that there's a, 34 billion's a lot, 24 million's a lot for this community. And it's from several different projects. We're talking about 17th tonight, but in February 21st of this year, when y'all started the project, you blocked 2 entrances into a major business thoroughfare on the north side of that thing. Now I can imagine what's been blocked to some of the residents. I don't know. I've heard from some tonight, but they did. They blocked it, and it took about 3 phone calls before we got it figured out what was going on, and it was just a disgruntled employee that didn't want to move his truck. And it may have been that day he didn't feel good, or he didn't want to do it, or whatever. I don't care. But I understand running a family business is, I'm sure that this family that owns this operation, which says it's privately owned, would want to know, and they need to understand that there's some real problems here with this project. I feel your pain though. I've been where you're at. It's not fun, and you're by yourself. And
No, I understand.
I'm not here to lash you.
One thing I want to convey is, we're 100% committed to finishing the project.
Well,
we understand
we want a good commitment from the people that own and operate that deal, and not necessarily an apology, but some backing to say, hey, we're going to take some special attention and get this thing done. $500 a day is nothing with a $24 million project. It is money, and it's something you don't like to hear, because whenever y'all get done with this project, you can go bid another one somewhere else, and you want to have a good reference. And this right here is not a good reference.
Okay, thank you, council. I still have specific questions, because I want to make sure we paid AECom to do the engineering on this. They have a plan, and I'd hate to know that we had the plan and you guys didn't follow the plan, and you didn't follow it for the water control, and that the engineer didn't make you do it that way. I want to make sure that this happened. So I'd like to look through the documents, and I'd like to find out for sure that the control of water during construction that was drawn up painstakingly by AECom and presumably was signed off by y'all, agreed to do it that way, and the city engineer agreed that it was a good plan. I want that paperwork. I want to see that it was done that way. I want to see the plan, and I want to know from your inspector that y'all in fact did exactly what AECom told you to do. Because if this failed because corners were cut, then I got a huge problem with that. Then these people were inconvenienced because somebody was trying to cut some corners. And maybe I'm out in left field, maybe I'm wrong, okay? But if that occurred, I want to know. I want to know whether that occurred, and I want to know if the city bears any responsibility in this. I want to know what responsibility y'all have, or AECom themselves. So I'd like to get this sorted out regarding that. The rain days or the extraordinary weather days, I'd like to see the proper documentation for that. Y'all had to apply for it, I understand. You had to give your explanation for why, and I'm sure you did. But sometimes things in this city don't happen the way they're by the book. They're supposed to happen, and I'm always on the lookout for that. Maybe I'm just a worrywart. But I want to make sure that things have been done right and by the book. Now, if things are done right and by the book and problems happen, hey, I understand. We're all human. But if problems happen because we were not going by the contract, then that's something I want to know. And I want to make sure that never happens again, and I want to rectify it appropriately. Okay, I think we said enough about this.
Mayor,
go ahead, yeah.
Paula, you said we have a third person that's overseeing the project?
We do. We have a third-party inspection that's in the field every day.
Well, they're failed too. What were they doing when all this inconvenience was going on?
And all the rain. Don't forget.
I mean, that person needs to be, whoever that person is, we need to look at what they're doing too. Because they evidently they didn't catch it either.
This is Paul Vest. He's our third-party inspector.
I'm Paul Vest.
How you doing, Mr. Vest?
Work for EST. I've been on site since May 5th. I understand this has been ongoing. Like Miss Easton said, the soil that was placed back in these trenches was wet soil. We have gone back over and we did spot tests along those from MLK all the way to Clement. And it was high moisture. So 2.5 weeks ago, the contractor has actually, starting at Clement, they worked their way to MLK. They took the material out of the ditch, let it dry through the afternoon, then recompacted. All the compaction tests that we took passed on this last effort.
Why were they allowed to put wet dirt in the ditch?
Again, they were trying to, the whole road bed is saturated, and they were trying to complete the project, and that's why no densities were taken during.
AECom's plan that they had for y'all, it wasn't adequate. Is it AECom's fault that y'all didn't control the water because their plan was inadequate?
No, sir, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so you were following the plan that they gave you for water removal. I mean, I've got it. The contractor shall not start the operation of any dewatering, pressure relief, or other excavation drainage until the groundwater control plan and other data required herein have been reviewed by the engineer. So AECom got you the plan to control the groundwater. The engineer signed off on it, and y'all followed the plan meticulously, and it still failed. Okay, so somebody's at fault here. AECom, maybe they screwed up. Maybe they gave you a bad plan. If that's the case, we go after AECom. Or maybe y'all didn't, maybe the engineer maybe y'all didn't understand the adequacy of it. I don't know. Or maybe you ignored the plan and didn't follow the plan. I don't know what happened, but I understand a plan was given to control the groundwater, and yet 11 out of 12 things, when y'all were meticulously following this plan and 11 out of 12 compaction tests failed, I don't understand that. I just don't understand. Somebody's at fault. I don't know who it is, but somebody's at fault here, in my opinion. I don't see how everybody's doing their job and yet this happens. I don't understand that.
Yes, sir.
And I have a question. To do a test, I mean, y'all did all 11, and you knew that the ground could possibly be saturated, I mean, with the rain. There's no way y'all could have done one, tested it, to see where you were instead of doing all 11?
Well, now, that was the 11 tests that were taken that failed. Those were taken from 20th all the way to Clement. And that's every 100 feet.
Okay.
Which is per the spec.
And per spec.
So, but you didn't take them till after
Sure.
you completed it?
I'm sorry?
Sir, may if I jump in here real quick?
Yes, sir.
So the dewatering papers you have there, those are for active running water. So when we currently did the excavation, the saturated soils weren't actively, we were laying at a speed that was outpacing the groundwater running into the ditch. Does that make sense?
This doesn't apply then to what you were
so
doing?
it would have to be actively running water within their ditch out of the existing soils. Correct.
Okay, so this doesn't apply to what you were doing, is what you're telling me then?
The dewatering portion, no, sir.
Okay,
So-
thank you. I appreciate it.
So just to be clear, so your existing banks have, 35% moisture in them, but your test can only have 26%, I believe. So you're having to get the material in the trench drier than the actual existing material within the existing road bed.
Okay, at the intersection of Martin Luther King and 17, that huge hole, 16 feet, 14 feet, whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
Every day for, 3 months, it was like a creek.
So man,
Running. We asked, my husband can tell me,
Would you
where's the water
step
coming
up to the microphone so it'll be on the recorder,
Where's
please?
the water coming from? Where's the water coming from? Your workers told us, we don't know, for 3 months,
can I
that they
address?
did not, yes, but your workers told us for 3 months, they did not know where that water was coming from. The day before they closed, they came out with a big pipe, pushed it up in that hole, and filled it in. Now, for 3 months, your workers told us they did not know where that water was coming from. Curtis, yes.
So to answer the lady's question, so we installed what we call in the field a Kelly well, which is essentially a 12-inch pipe we dug down next to our sewer line. So our sewer line has gravel around it. So we essentially create a French drain. That French drain attracts groundwater within the rock. So we installed a Kelly well at our pipeline so we could pump the water out of the rock to try and draw the moisture down enough to get the dirt to pass. Does that make sense? In certain areas of the ditch. Because the existing groundwater kept continually saturating our dirt in our ditch. As well as we installed trench dams to prevent uphill water at 20th Street that was running downhill in our trench. So we've created this big French drain on this slope, and we were constantly fighting water that was coming off 20th Street. So that's why we came back with a proposed plan for the trench dams to try and stop that water in increments, to keep it from wanting to flow and eventually pushing up out of the road at Clement and 17th.
Okay. All right, I think we beat this enough. Any other questions or any other? Mr. Path, you have something you'll say?
I'd like to just kind of throw in here real quick. I have a lot of experience working with large projects in my career, and I work in Nebraska City. We had tens of millions of projects that we did up there. Projects do not always go smoothly. Projects do not always go well like you hope they would. You always plan for the best, and you always have your plan set in place. You have your goals. Elements change, people change, things happen. I would advise us that we try to just get the project done. I'd advise that we try to move forward. What's happened has happened. Were mistakes made? Probably so. This is a 5-year project. We had a design engineer, a third-party engineer. The city staff had a role to play. We have a contractor. It's multi-sites across the city. Lots of different projects everywhere. It's a very complex project. A lot of turnovers happen between all those crews here. It'd be very difficult to try to go back and figure out all the pieces, all the reasons why, who said what, why, so forth. And if that's a priority, we can for the council, we can do that at the expense of other priorities. And but I would encourage us that we try to move forward, get the project done, get the road on MLK and 17th, a 2-inch mill, 4-inch asphalt on top of that, get it smoothed out, and then we try to move forward. Now, when it comes to liquidated damages and those pieces, again, having been through those kind of negotiations in the past on a project in Nebraska City, those will come shake out in the very end of the project. At the end of the project, you come together, you figure out, okay, when should you have been done? Why are you not done? Rain days, negotiate those pieces. Legalese gets involved, attorneys get involved. You try to figure out what is fair, what's not fair, and then it gets shaken out at the end of the project. And so I would ask that we not try to figure that right now. We're not done with the project just yet. We have to try to get this thing done. We have to still try to play well with each other. We have to work well with the contractor, with the third-party inspector, with the engineer, and get this project done and over with. And then that's where myself, the attorney, everyone gets involved. And we discuss what is fair, what should we do now, how do we compensate this, what things do we cut out, what's the change orders involved with that. You usually do change orders at the very end of the project, and it's how most projects work, because in the field, you have to make decisions in the field. That you have a plan, you want to do it this way, but then you get out there and you realize you can't do it this way, and so you have to make the decision in the field. So that all shakes out in the end, and so I would just encourage us that we try to move forward, get the project done for ourselves, the contractor's sake, the MLK 17th Street individuals. A lot of this work that has been discussed tonight may delay the process if we have to do a lot of research and digging. And so I'd encourage that we try to just get them here. They've committed they'll be here this week, start the process, get it milled, get it overlaid next week, and then they can move on to 40th and get that project done. I know we have some other work that's to be done. We have a bunch of punch list items that need to be addressed. Again, one large project, you do punch list items at the very end of the project, usually not always throughout. We have been working to try to get some punch list things done. MA has been working on that. So again, this is a very large, very complex project, lots of moving pieces, lots of moving parts, lots of people involved. I walked in here in April to this process here, and I can clearly see that it's a large, complex piece. Now, going through, there's been a lot of good things done. And so I took a tour of the project here last week, and you can't tell a lot of work's been done in places. And so they've done a lot of good work. And so I know I'm getting a little off topic here, and I apologize. I won't go any further than that. So, but again, MLK and 17th did not work out as well as we wanted it to. Issues came up, but we're finding a solution now. We're getting to it done now. I commend staff for stopping them, saying no, you will not asphalt over a failed compaction tested trench. So we stopped that. That was our duty to do that, and we did that. Of course, working with, when a project is done, the contractor is in charge of the project. They determine meets and bounds, measures, methods, and so forth. They determine their timelines. We try to work with them to do that. We have encouraged them to come back to the site. We've encouraged them multiple times to come in and fill ruts and so forth. Again, that's happened. It's not been, it is what it is, but we just now need to get the project done. And we need to move forward and accomplish the goal of getting it overlaid, and we move on to closing this project out, and then getting everything paid off and done, and we move forward to hopefully another project down the road. So,
Thank you, Ms. Path. Okay, I don't have much else other than, again, I was on the council when this was passed. The verbiage at the test said it would be 3 to 4 years, 4 years max, and it might be doing as early as 3 years. So obviously, now we're looking at 5 years, and yeah, it is in fact a problem. So if anybody else on the council have anything else to add to this, or we'll go on to the next item. And the council, every one of us needs to think about it if there's anything we want to do.
I just want to ask the citizens, are y'all satisfied with what happened or discussion tonight?
People do it, get it done, does that mean it's gonna be right? And move this to 6, the street at 6, and you're gonna be looking at the same
Ms. Easton's
thing.
assuring us that some of the delays have been to make sure that it doesn't do what Sixth Street did, because we don't want that for you guys at all. But we want to get it done. Yes, sir.
Take a ride down 17th Street, get out and walk. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that you can walk in certain places, and the dirt is gonna give. I mean, I don't fully understand compaction, but as far as what they got down there now, hey, in front of 1320, there's a deep hole right there. There's no rock, no anything. All I ask you y'all, the panel, to get out and walk and see. Because there's no sense in burning money for something that you know gonna fail.
And Mr. Best here, Mr. Best was there every day, answering our questions, walking up and, now, I don't know about any of the other residents, but from Martin Luther King all the way up to 20th Street, he personally got to know all of us. If we had questions, he answered to the best of his ability.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, yeah.
He really did. Mr. Best was there,
yeah.
trying to answer our questions and get our problems solved. Now, I can't say it for 17, but I know what he did on Martin Luther King. And he was the friendliest one.
I'm glad to hear
He
that.
got to know each and every one of those people on Martin Luther King from 17 on down personally.
Yes, ma'am, I appreciate that. Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the next item, unless anybody has something else to say on this. Yes?
I know we're gonna try to fix 17 better than what we done 6 and 8, but what are we gonna do to fix 6 and 8?
That's a discussion for another evening. That's something we'll have to discuss on another evening.
Not on the agenda.
Okay, and the next agenda item I put on too, item number 17, discuss and explain the recent failure and repair of the newly placed water main at the 100 block of South Main Street. The city has put a nice explanation in the packet about this, but my concern was that this street was, was under construction for a long time, and one business went out of business, maybe because of this, partly because of this, partly because of COVID. And then to see a major water main blow up, I don't know a year? I don't know how long that pipe had been placed in there, but it hadn't been there very long. And I thought this is a historic downtown street, and I just thought the people of Paris deserved an explanation for what happened. And again, it's a good explanation in here. Ms. Easton, I'll let you go over that with us.
Would you like me to cover everything in the memo?
Yeah, you can summarize it in high points, whatever you want to do.
So on Friday, September 4th, there was water coming up the road. It was a Friday evening, and so we knew that there was some issue going on with most likely the new main. We contacted the contractor and let them know that we thought there was a leak, and they came out that following week to do some testing and isolate it. On Wednesday, the following Wednesday, they were able to cut the street, dig up the line, and they found that there was a leak happening at a joint. They cut the pipe, made the repair, patched the road, and then they are expected to come back, I think, this week. Brent, for the final resurfacing of that street cut. All of that is done at their cost. Currently, all of the work is still under, it's not even really under warranty yet. It's still under their ownership because we have not accepted the project. So it's still, I mean, even though the work area is done and it's substantially complete, they're working on punch list items in downtown, and so they still own that work. So any repairs are at their cost and no additional cost under the contract. Essentially what happened is the water line, and most of the water lines in downtown were installed by bore, which allowed us to leave parking spaces open for the businesses a little bit longer. It allowed us to have an improved traffic control plan. You may recall when we first started working downtown, we did it by open cut on North Main, and it was an extremely long closure that really inconvenienced that block, and we knew that when we moved into other blocks where there were storefronts that it was going to be a real problem. So the change was made to install by bore, and that means it's basically a tunnel, and they pull the pipe through the ground without ever cutting the street. So they installed the line by bore from Lamar towards Clarksville and stopped in a pit that was just south of Clarksville Street intersection. And then they went down to Kaufman and installed by bore towards that same pit. And in that pit is where they made the connection. When you bore pipe, you use like a Certalock pipe. It has a restrained joint. It's a fitting with a mechanism that locks it in place, and then you put Brent calls it a straw. It's like a plastic rod that's inserted into this channel, and it makes it so that the pipes don't pull apart when they're pulled through the ground. When the contractor made the repair, they found that channel, that straw was not inserted in that channel, and that's the location of the leak. So it was a missing piece or a faulty piece. Maybe it fell apart, but from what I understand, they did not find it when they made the repair. Because of that we think that was the cause of that leak over time. There are 3 tests that we do on water lines that are per the contract and just standard practice. And it's a pressure test, disinfection, and then a BACT, which is testing for E. coli and coliform, and those are done by the laboratory. So the field test for leakage is the pressure test. That was done on this line in 2018. It was installed. The main was put in the ground in August, and it was actually charged up during September and October months is when we completed all of the testing. So it passed the leakage test at the time, and then it's held until Friday, September 4th of 2020, until a leak surfaced. Again, they made the repair. It's unfortunate. This is the first, I put in the memo that there's been 2 leaks. The other issue was where they were tying to Crockett Circle, and it was an old main, and every time they would connect, we would have issues on the old main. So I really even hate to credit them with a leak in that location. So this is the first that we've had of this. Overall, we've seen a lot of success on all of their water line installations, and we haven't had issues. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation, and I do appreciate it, and it was very, very thorough in the packet. I still, I requested those inspections, but that wasn't really what I was wondering, and maybe there is no inspection, but who's responsible? I understand these pipes are bright yellow and the rod is jet black, and no one who installed it and the inspector, no one noticed that a mandatory part wasn't installed. And it bothers me. Shouldn't the inspector have caught that?
The inspector doesn't always get down in the pipe and inspect the mechanism, the restrained joint. That's really the responsibility of the contractor. And there's language in the contract that makes the responsibility of inspection of the work on the contractor. They're responsible for their crews and their guys and to make sure that the work gets done in compliance with the specs. We do have inspectors on site, and that's for project oversight and to try to catch things if they see it, but I don't know that the inspector is typically in a 6-foot trench inspecting that level.
It's just unfortunate that this happened, and it bothered me because I wondered, okay, has this been done anywhere else in the city? And do we have ticking time bombs waiting to blow up on us? Because I don't see, that'd be like a surgeon leaving a sponge inside somebody. It's basic. I don't understand. It's kind of res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. The fact that they left a crucial part out speaks for itself that it wasn't installed properly. And that's really what upset me about it and why I put it on the agenda. I appreciate your explanation, but it doesn't calm my fears that we might have similar problems. And, I certainly want to be on the lookout when we have failures that are related to things like that. So that's all I had on it, but I wanted to throw it open to, also, the patch up there obviously hasn't got the asphalt on it yet.
That's
It's-
correct. It was
so
temporary. They're coming back for that.
Okay, okay. Mr. Hughes, you got anything, or Ms. Savage, anything? Anything on this end of the aisle?
Thank you for
Okay.
a explanation that a retired kindergarten teacher can understand. It's hard to put it on my level. Thank
But I
you.
still don't like it.
No, I don't
still
either,
don't like
but
it.
I understand
And
it.
it caused a historic street of
Yeah.
downtown Paris
Yeah.
that had been under construction for months and months, and caused one business to go out of business, that and COVID. And yeah, it's a minor inconvenience. Yes, I know it was cleaned up quickly, but I just want to make sure we're not going to be digging up streets. We spent way too much money on this project to have this kind of problems. These are the kind of problems we were spending this money so we wouldn't have to have. So I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for problems like this moving forward. If you run into any problems that come into that, bring them to me. Don't wait for me to find out. And because I want to stay on top of this and make sure that the people spent their money wisely and got a quality product in the ground. That's all I care about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Easton. All right. Discuss and act, 18, discuss and act on budget amendments to the Paris Economic Development's budget fiscal year 2019-2020. Mr. Package.
Good evening. How are you all doing? So first and foremost, we wanted to talk about this. The PDC board approved an amended budget at the September 15, 2020 meeting. And we are requesting that the City Council consider approval of the 2019-2020 amended budget. The PDC budget is allocated into two budget categories, one being the operating, two being the job training capital and incentives. The amended operating budget should reflect $1,500 additional expense for telecommunication expenses for board members. As you remember, we got iPads, and then we've also added new members, and so that was an additional to that. We have $5,000 that's unexpected moving expenses for the hiring of our new executive director, Ms. Maureen Hammond. We had $200 miscellaneous expenses. We like to do some nice things if there's something that has happened, a sympathy or something, of that nature, a celebration, just to get flowers and whatnot. So there's a $41,000 unexpected consultant expenses related to the search and hiring of a new executive director, again, Mrs. Maureen Hammond, and then $25,000 in settlement expenses incurred following the departure of our executive director. And so these amendments will not increase the operating budget. We have savings in our salaries and wages and decrease expenses in marketing and promotions due to COVID and the absence of our executive director for the 6 months. So there is that portion. Moving on to the next area, amended job training, direct business incentives, and new industry projects to reflect $5,700, which that is additional training dollars to match the grant by TWC for training to develop curriculum for coding and programming of programmable logic controllers for local industry. And we approved that as a board back in January, February to add that money into the pot to help and contribute that money to further the training with TWC and PJC. $200,000, as you can recall, that was incentives to Turner Industries to retain jobs. And to this point, currently, they have a job, and we're proud to say that currently they have 320 FTE. So that's fantastic. We want to keep that going, and that's positive news there. And then there was $75,000 that was additional expenses related to the environmental reports for American Spiral Weald, and that was something that was overshot. We needed more environmental work than what we had projected. These amendments increase the total PDC budget by $280,700 for job training, direct business incentives, and new industry projects. However, due to several line items coming in under budget in both operations and direct business incentives, we expect to be under budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. So $1 million, just to reflect, $1 million budgeted for jobs incentives for American Spiral Weald will not occur within this fiscal year, along with $400,000 allocated for rail development. That won't occur either. And then $131,400 for Daisy Dairy. That won't occur either. So in closing, I just wanted to emphasize, we are working hard to be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. We take that job very seriously, and we also appreciate you guys, holding us accountable and making sure that we do the right thing under your supervision. So,
Thanks, Mayor.
yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions, comments, discussion? Bring it up now. Just shout it out.
I move we pass the budget amendments for the PEDC board budget.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? None? All right, all in favor? We got a unanimous. Get out of here,
Thank
Mayor.
you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, item number 19, discuss and act on an ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of Finance transfer funds from unencumbered appropriation balances to overexpended accounts for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Mr. Anderson, could you explain all this to us, sir?
Okay, this is our kind of annual housekeeping budget amendment where we go in and we look at where departments are as compared to their budget. We have 5 departments that for various reasons are expected to be over their budget. We have a number of departments who are underspending sufficiently that we can make these transfers so the total budget does not increase. But we would like to do this amendment to kind of authorize the expenditures. They're supposed to be appropriated, but we normally clean this up at the end of the year. And so the only the general fund, like I say, we're not increasing that total budget at all. The sanitation budget, which is a different fund, that is actually an increase to that budget. And what happened on that we order a new sanitation truck normally every other year when the fee that we collect is sufficient to buy one. The truck had been ordered and it should have been paid for in the previous year's fiscal budget, but it wasn't finished and it wasn't delivered until this fiscal year. And so we had ordered it, we needed to pay for it, and that's the reason it's over this time. It's not like we didn't already have the money, we just didn't get the truck in time to get that paid for in the proper year.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any questions for Gene on this? All right.
We're basically taking money from one department, we're washing money from one to the other, right?
One to the other,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
All right, I'll make the motion that we pass this budget amendment.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Item number 20, discuss and act on a resolution of the City of Paris, Texas, adopting Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, Inc.'s TCAP Professional Services Agreement and Gexa Energy's Commercial Electric Service Agreement for power to be provided on and after January 1st, 2023. This is in your department again, Mr. Anderson.
The city has for a number of years joined with about 120 or 125 other cities in pooling our demand and going out and bidding for electrical services. And we've been successful at getting low rates through this process. But the electrical market, as you know, a lot of it's changed, sources have changed, and methods of getting the power have changed. And we think now that instead of this fixed price, longer term contract method, that this kind of rolling bidding process that's being proposed, that we'll be taking bids 2 years out for a month, on a rolling basis, will keep us closer to the market value, whether it's going up or whether it's going down. And we think in the long term will make electrical prices cheaper for us. And so we would like to try that. The agreement that you would be approving does allow us twice a year to be able to opt out of that and go back to a fixed price if it doesn't do what it says it's going to do, bringing us lower prices. And so it's staff's recommendation that we try that.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Sounds like a good idea to me.
I like an opt-out alternative.
All right, anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the TCAP Professional Services Agreement with GXA Energy's Commercial Electric Services Agreement for the power and so on.
We got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor? Everybody in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Next item, item number 21, discuss an act to accept the second lowest bid for aluminum sulfate chemical for water and wastewater treatment in fiscal year 2021. Going to cost us some money, I understand, Mr. Path.
Doug's on vacation tonight, so I'm standing in his stead tonight. When we provided to you the bids for chemical treatments here back in August or so, for August 10th council meeting, Univar USA Incorporate gave us and verified several times their bid of $137.10 per ton. We were contacted here a couple weeks ago that they realized they made a mistake and they cannot honor that price. We demanded that they honor the price because we've already brought it to you. You had approved it. We'd bounced our budget with it, but they said they will not. And so their new price is actually above the second place price. And so Chameleon Industries Incorporate has a bid for $238 per ton. And again, these are estimated numbers. I mean, chemicals are off of usage. And so we have to estimate what we think we're going to spend next year, but at the same time, we never know how much water people are going to use, and so we have this base estimate. So the estimated increase is about $100,900. So working with Doug, we went to work trying to figure out, okay, we just passed a balanced budget. Does that mean we have to amend? Well, we're not recommending we amend. Part of it, a few things here. We have some existing chemicals already on hand from this current fiscal year. So even though we budget as if we don't have any, just in case, looking forward, we have some of our chemicals on hand that we don't have to buy right away. So that's going to produce some savings there. We did in the budget item itself, again, because these are all estimates when it comes to how much usage. We put about $34,000 in addition there just in case we had overage there. So that's also going to help in our favor. And last and not least, we're going to delay a couple of our capital projects in water plant. We have some painting projects that were approved. And so as the fiscal year goes on, if our usage is favorable and our purchases are favorable, we might then implement those capital projects. But if not, if we have to spend additional money on the chemicals, we would then not do that project. And so those things in combination there will prevent us from having to amend the budget. We do have to have this chemical as one of our most critical ones. It is unfortunate that the contractor would not honor that price. We did do our best to try to but it's try to encourage them to do that. They wouldn't. So we are recommending that you would authorize the second place bid of Chameleon Industries Incorporated for $238 per ton, and then we as staff will do what's necessary to keep our budget in the water department where we budgeted at. So.
Mr. Path, on these bids, aren't they legally binding? I don't see how they can bid on this and then back out of it after they get the contract awarded legally to them.
Well, it depends how much you want to pursue them.
I mean, it's down to we have to sue them to get it.
Sue them, yes,
Yeah.
and then the cost you go with that, and so
Yeah.
we can definitely go down that route, but we need the chemical now because we buy
Yeah.
this like every 2 weeks, and so I don't know if Danny's.
I mean, it
Danny's
seems like
here
we have
tonight.
damages equal to the difference between what they bid and what the other place we're going to bid. I mean, I don't know if it's worth the while to go after it or not, but did they just make a mistake or how? I don't understand. Stephanie, you got any? Your mic isn't working.
I don't know enough about this particular bid to know if they made a mistake or if it turns out they couldn't get the chemicals for what they thought. There was a contractual issue on their end as well. I mean, it's certainly something we can look at. I haven't spent a lot of time on this issue to know.
Would there be a possibility of threatening them with a lawsuit and then maybe seeing if they'll settle for something, or is it just not worth our time to do it?
Well, you never just threaten them with a lawsuit unless
unless
you're willing to go through with a
Yep.
lawsuit. So what I would suggest is that you let me get with Grayson and with Doug to see if it's something that we think is worth our while to pursue. And if so, certainly willing to go that route.
Okay. In the meantime, we still need to approve this so we have chemicals, right?
Yeah, we need chemicals.
Yes, yeah. And we also have Danny Rowell here. He's the superintendent for water plant, and so as Doug explained to me, we have to buy this pretty steadily. But again, if we were to sue them, it'd be hard for damages, because if we pursue the bid with Chameleon, then we're going to be working with them for a year, because then we commit ourselves to them for a year, and so we have to try to get damages from Univar, and it can be done. It's messy, and we got
Y'all think about it and get back with us.
Got a lot of work to do,
you
so
know.
yeah.
Any?
Do we
yeah.
buy a predetermined amount of chemicals or just periodically order what's needed? So we may not even end up paying the whole amount?
Correct, yeah, we buy as needed, I believe. Is that right, Danny? Danny, want to come here real quick? Go ahead, come up here real quick.
Yeah, come up so we can hear you.
On average, what it is, we purchase alum about every 2 weeks. And it's one of the essential chemicals in order to clear the water up. So that being said, we bid on bulk. So whenever you order alum, aluminum sulfate, it comes in 18-wheeler, a tanker. And so we got 2 tanks, like 15-foot tanks. And so it's a continuous, you know, we gotta have it. If we don't have it, you know, we're not treating water. But yeah, it's all in bulk.
Any questions?
I would just, I mean, to the idea about legally, my advice, given all the things we look at for day-to-day tasks, and given, again, these are all estimate numbers, and so we don't know if we're actually going to spend $100,000 more, and we're going to see what we actually need, and if we can't do one project this year, we'll do it next year, and so I would ask that we just proceed with Chameleon, because given the other priorities we have in the city, and given we can solve this one pretty easily, and we may still be able to do our project in the end, because these are all estimates, and we may still come in under, and we may have a good revenue year, may not use it so much. This is one where I just say we accept, we move forward, and then we allow ourselves to work on other issues that are going on, so.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody? Discussion?
Make a motion, we accept the second lowest bid for the aluminum sulfide chemical for water and waste treatment for fiscal year 2021.
Got a motion? Any second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Everybody unanimous? Thank you. Item number 22, discuss and act on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a solid waste collection permit to County Waste Collection LLC, doing business as Trashy Business pursuant to Section 1624 of the Code of Ordinances. Passage of this ordinance requires 5 affirmative votes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if 2 people vote against it, it's going to kill it. Just keep that in mind.
This is one of the returning companies. They didn't get their information in time to put it on the agenda last time. So I'm asking you all to approve it. They've been running in the city for years.
Okay.
Excuse me, Janice. And on this and the next one, I would advise you that if an applicant meets the qualifications to receive one of these permits, I know this takes at least 5 affirmative votes, but there's probably not a basis for denying a permit to someone who otherwise meets the qualifications that everybody else does.
Okay. All right. Any discussion or questions? I'll make a motion that we authorize the issuance of a solid waste collection permit to County Waste Collection LLC.
Second.
All in favor? We got a unanimous vote. All right. 23, discuss and act on an ordinance granting a shuttle service license to Stop and Drop Transportation LLC. Once again, it requires 5 votes to pass this.
Okay, this is Ms. Moore, who has she's submitted an application and her insurance certificate. She wants to operate a shuttle business inside the city limits, which is something we don't have at this time. She can transport maybe 6 children to a daycare after school, or 5 adults to the bus stop, or things like that. Okay. We recommend approval.
All right, any questions? Go ahead, yes.
Oh, I'll make the motion that we pass.
Okay. Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor? Well, you're unanimous again. Thank you.
Okay. This is, go ahead. You go
Item
ahead.
number 24, discuss and appoint 1 member to fill a vacant position on Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, you all appointed Cody Adams just recently to Planning and Zoning. He's moving out of town, so he resigned. We have 3 applicants. James O'Brien, he's the only person that applied back in June that is left, that also wanted to apply right now. We have Mike Mosier and Ben Vaughn. They're all qualified applicants. They're registered voters and live in the city. So I didn't know how you all wanted to handle that.
You know, I would just say, if everybody's okay, we could just nominate and vote in the order nominated. I mean, I've known James O'Brien for years. He's been on planning and zoning. He did an excellent job, and he didn't get on it last time, but I think he'd be a real good fit. I'm going to nominate Dr. O'Brien. Does anyone want to nominate one of the other 2?
I'd like to nominate Mike Mosier.
Okay.
He's an attorney, there's a lot of legal issues with planning and zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna nominate.
Okay. All right, I'll bring O'Brien up first. Those in favor of Dr. O'Brien, raise your hand. We got 2, so he didn't make it. Those in favor of Michael Mosier, we got 3, you got it. So he's on planning and zoning. Item number 25, convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney to receive legal advice from the city attorney about 1, pending or contemplated litigation, and/or 2, on matters in which the duty of an attorney to her client under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with this chapter as follows. Love Civic Center. It is now 8:05, and we're going into executive. Okay, it is now 8:25. We're out of executive. We consulted with our lawyer. No action was taken. Brings up item number 27, future events. This did come up during the meeting. There's a lot of people that are concerned about people speeding on roads. I think we may need to, it's something maybe would the Traffic Commission be the correct place for this to start? Or
Yes, the traffic commission would have to go through it, but we would probably want to refer it maybe just to the PD and to engineering to kind of talk to it before it even goes to the traffic commission.
Johnson Woods Drive is one as well.
Why don't y'all just send all your places that you think they need them to
I
us?
think a lot of people are concerned about that, and rightfully so, and that was brought up many times tonight, and it's completely unrelated to some of the questions we were being asked, so.
Right, and if you get us particular areas that you're aware of, those can be things on the discussion list.
All right, any other future events?
Yes, I'd like to consider for contractors that bid with us, a safety record policy, and I've given Mr. Path a sample one, if we could consider that.
Okay, anything else? Motion for adjournment.
Second.
Yay.
Thanks staff who stays so